It's time for This Week in WordPress, episode number 200, entitled 200. There's nothing more to say. It was recorded on Monday, the 14th of March, 2022. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and today, on this very special edition, I'm joined by three lovely guests. I'm joined by Taco Verdenschot, I'm joined by Carmen Kendrick, and also by Birgit Pauli-Hack. First thing to say is that we've got a competition. If you want to win a prize, go to wpbuilds.com/200, and for about a week or so I will leave the prizes up there. All you've got to do is enter your email address and say which prizes you would like to be considered for. There's things from Yoast, from Cadence WP, and also from Stellar WP, and you cannot win the cat. Okay, we do get into some WordPress stuff as we always do, and there was quite a bit to talk about this week. 5.9.2 rolled out. It's a security update. Hopefully you've updated to that. We also talk about whether or not WordPress 6.0 should remove the Gutenberg beta label, because it's been out for a long time, but is it ready enough? We also talk about the fact that WordPress.com has upped the ante in terms of its marketplace and is asking for plugin developers to join them and hopefully create something a little bit like an iOS or Google Play Store, but in the WordPress.com side of things. Anne McCarthy has got her Museum of Block Art launch, and it's a fabulous way to see what's possible with blocks. We also talk about whether or not the WordPress community should be boycotting the Russians in the face of all of the things that are happening over in the Ukraine. And then finally, for a bit of fun, we talk about all sorts of things that have 200 in their name or are to do with 200. It's a fun episode, and it's all coming up next on This Week in WordPress. The WP Builds podcast is brought to you today by Cloudways. Cloudways provides the ultimate managed WordPress and WooCommerce hosting solutions. Easy setup allows you to get started in minutes. Focus on your business and say goodbye to hassles. Get started with our 3-day free trial to enjoy unmatched performance, superb uptime, and 24/7 active support. Find out more at cloudways.com. Hello, lots of hellos. This is episode... Wait for it. Hold on. I've got a thing. This is episode... It's episode number 200. Yeah. Episode number 200 of the show. This Week in WordPress, number 200. I can't believe I've been doing it for this long. I'm just going to do a little potted history. I started this show, however long it is to do 200 episodes. It's basically 4 years. And I used to do it. I just used to read into a mic on a Sunday evening after my kids had gone to bed with like 5 stories. And then did that for, like years. And then I decided I would do it on a video like this live. And then Paul Lacey got involved, and then we just sort of kept it going. And every week it's been an absolute pleasure to welcome guests on from all over the world. And we've reached this milestone, 200 episodes. It's going to be a bit of a special one. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But joining us today, we've got Taco. How are you doing, Taco?
Hi, everyone. All good here. Yeah.
Good. Do you want me to? I'll introduce Taco first. I will do it one at a time. Taco is the community manager at Yoast. I don't know if I want to read the next couple of words. I don't think I will. Coordinator of WordCamp Netherlands, which will take place on the 15th to the 16th of September. What? At a zoo? It actually says that. Is that? Go on.
Correct. Yes.
Go on. Tell us what's going on there.
So after 2 years of not having WordPress events, the most important part of the event is going to be catching up with people. So we wanted to have a unique location where people can go and hang out with each other and have fun. And what better place to hang out together than in a zoo?
That's brilliant. Is it the really, really famous zoo that you have there? Don't you have this like unbelievably massive zoo in Holland?
So the most well-known is probably Artis. which is on the other side of the country.
Ah.
But this is actually one that is quite famous because they have very large was it areas for the animals, and they do a lot of in all the breeding of endangered species.
What a fabulous, fabulous idea. So, okay, everybody bookmark that right now. Get yourself a plane booked or a train or whatever it might be, 15th to the 16th of September in the Netherlands. And it's WordCamp The Netherlands is what it's called.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'm sure Taco will be back before then and telling us more about it. The next person that we've got is Birgit. How you doing, Birgit?
Well, I'm well. I'm well. Thank you for having me again. And
Oh,
I'm so happy I picked 200.
wait.
Congratulations.
Every time somebody says 200, I can't even find it now. There, I got to.
Yay.
Episode number 200. I'm never going to keep up with that. But anyway, Birgit joins us today. She's in the United States, and she is the publisher of the Gutenberg Times, which fits on the screen right now. But when we shrink our little pictures, it's too long to go on there. But she's also the co-host of the Gutenberg Changelog podcast and is a WordPress developer advocate over at Automatic. And we'll be linking to one of her pieces a little bit later as well. And last but by no means least, we have a brand new guest. It's always a pleasure to welcome somebody new. We've got Carmen Kendrick. Hello, Carmen. Very nice to have you.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, Carmen is a product manager. Sorry, I'll say that again. Carmen Kendrick is a product marketing manager at LearnDash.com. She holds a decade of experience running an e-commerce site, a web design freelance business, and a WordPress course for beginners. When she's not blogging about WordPress or working, you can find her cooking, skating, and saving interior design pins on Pinterest. Pinterest, I never got it. But almost everybody that I know loves Pinterest. Yeah, it's just not my thing. But thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We've got the whole Learn Dash angle covered now on this show. That's great. It's good to have somebody from a different and a new product. That's lovely. We've got a few comments coming in. Mostly looks like Michelle Frechette saying lots of hellos. She says, good morning, friends. Congratulations on episode 200. Did it. Yeah, I did it. Congratulations on that number, which is really nice. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. Michelle, of course, is very often on the show. She says quite a few other hellos to various different people. And then we've got Rob Cairns dropping in the comments as well. He says, hi, Taco. Hi, Carmen.
Hi, Rob.
Hi,
How you
Birgit.
doing?
And of course, Nathan. Yeah, thank you, Rob. Maya coming in saying hi, everyone. Maya works for GoDaddy. She's very, very often in our little chat there. And then we've also got Kathy Zant, who was on last week's show. Yay, Kathy. She says, yay, Carmen, and hello, Nathan, Birgit, and Taco. If you would like to make comments, and we do appreciate them, we try to put as many as we can onto the screen. You know, some of them I just can't manage to keep up with it. But if you would like to do that, then if you're on the Facebook side of things, so if you're watching this on Facebook or in the Facebook group, you might have to go to that URL, chat.restream.io/FB. Otherwise, your name doesn't come across and your avatar is just completely blank. That's fine if you want to do it that way. You could just write your name in the comment. But if you go to wpbuilds.com/live, that's YouTube. And so you can use the commenting system there if you're logged into a Google account. And hopefully, if you make a comment, then we'll try to get it on the screen. So. Let me begin by sharing my screen. I've got the wrong screen up on here. There we go. Let's make a start, shall we? First things first, WP Builds, that's our website. We've got a few episodes that we put out each week. We do this show on a Monday, which comes out on a Tuesday. And then we also do our podcast regular thing, which comes out on a Thursday. So be sure to check those out. If you want to subscribe, click this little button at the top, the subscribe link, and that will allow us to send you an email when we produce a piece of content. No spam, just emails about the content that we produce. Aside from that, I have an exciting announcement. We've never done this. I've done giveaways, but in fact, Taco knows the story. For episode 100 of our podcast, so not this show, I organised the most enormous giveaway. It truly was enormous, and it took me about 2 weeks to finalize it all and get it all sorted. So we're sort of paring it down a little bit, but thank you to Taco. Taco was the one that came up with this idea. I really appreciate that. We're just doing a little giveaway to mark the fact that the show has reached episode number 200. Yeah, Taco's waving.
I'll do this every time you say 200.
That's great. And this is our little giveaway. I really appreciate the companies that have reached out and offered to give us some prizes. Essentially, they're the companies of the people who contribute often to the show in terms of being a co-host. So Taco is one of our co-hosts, as is Michelle, as is Kathy Zant, as is Remkus, and also the cat that you can see on the screen is also a regular contributor to the show. So here's what you can win. Thank you, first of all, Taco. The Yoast prizes are as follows. Yoast SEO for WordPress Premium subscription, one site, 1 year. So if you fancy getting Yoast SEO Premium, there are 3 of those up for grabs. There's also a Yoast SEO add-on of your choice, 1 site, 1 year. That's just one, right, Taco?
Yes, that's just one.
Okay, so there's 4 prizes in total from Yoast. Just to recap, Yoast SEO plugin, the premium version, a full subscription for 1 site for 1 year, and 3 lucky winners are going to get that, and a Yoast SEO add-on of your choice, so you can go through their marketplace and pick the one that you like and get it for a year. That would be really nice. Also, Stellar WP have donated a $200 gift card to snackmagic.com. And I confess, when I came across this, I'd not heard of snackmagic.com, but here it is. Snackmagic is a global way of giving snacks to people. Look at that. Look at these happy people. Just like snacking out, having a great time. And $200 of snacks.
Thing, Nathan.
200.
Oh, no. Oh, no. That wasn't so bad. Yeah, I hadn't even made the connection there. Oh, thank you, Birgit. Thanks, Carmen. Yeah, so you're going to get a certain dollar amount of snacks. It starts with a 2 and has 2 zeros on the end. And that's such a cool little gift. Thank you. That was Michelle Frechette that organised that, and also they're giving away.
By the way, Nathan, the best thing is that when you go to that website for the first time, you get to accept their cookies.
Oh, that was so good. I love that. Oh, brilliant. Well done. Oh dear. I wonder if they sell tacos. Oh no, it's not on this. It's not on the same level, is it? $200 of that though being kindly donated from Stellar WP, but also you can get 5 of their ball caps, which I'm reliably informed is like the traditional baseball cap. You can also win a cat, but note it. It says here, note, you cannot really win a cat. There is no cat on offer. It's just a picture of a cat. Have you any idea how cruel and complex it would be to ship a cat internationally? Anyway, and also Cadence WP have given us some nice prizes as well. They've got a couple of T-shirts, a couple of Cadence WP mugs, and a couple of caps. So the way that you're going to win this is you're going to go to this URL. It is wpbuilds.com/200 WP build. Oh no, I can't do it. I just can't keep up. I'm so sorry. WPbuilds.com /the number in question. And it's dead simple. You just fill out a form with your name, your email address, and we're keeping the email address simply for the purposes of getting in touch with you. And you just have to pick which of the prizes you're interested in. And I'm almost guaranteeing that every single person is going to pick the cat just to be, even though you can't win the cat, I'm guaranteeing that everybody that enters will say that they want to win the cat. And then if you fancy it, you can subscribe to our newsletter by clicking that button at the bottom. But that's all there is to it. It's just sheer joy giveaway stuff. So again, Taco, thank you for getting the ball rolling on that. I really appreciate it. So one last time, wpbuilds.com /200. I found a way around it. Okay, this is going to be a long show. Michelle. That's right. No, but we're going to get into it properly now. But there we go. That's our little fun bit for this week. And I'll announce the winners probably next week at some point. Okay, it's called This Week in WordPress. So at some point, I guess we should probably get onto some WordPressy type stuff. So here we go. First article this week is over on WordPress.org, you may have noticed that WordPress ticked over to version 5.9.2 during the course of the week. If you're like me, you long ago decided you weren't going to be bothered by having to manually update this stuff, and you're going to go and have made it so that it automatically updated. So all I got was just a bunch of emails saying your site has been updated, and then a minute later your site has been updated. And that's how I want it. This is a security and maintenance release. There is one bug fix and 3 security fixes, so it's not like there's a laundry list of great big problems, but the fact are there are problems, and 3 of them are related to security. So it makes no sense not to go and update your website. So if you've got this not on automation, go and set it up. But there isn't a lot of detail in there. Do any of you know what those security things were about? Because I didn't delve into that.
I don't think it's been publicly disclosed yet.
Okay.
They'll probably do that at a later time when more
Yep.
people had a chance to update, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? In the regular world of internet security, there's this sort of 90-day window where you keep things under your hat and, you know, update all the things and then release information about it sort of 90 days later. So anyway, if you haven't done it, go and update to 5.9.2. You won't notice any change really at all, other than the fact that you'll know that you're secure. So, okay, that's the first thing. All right, this is quite an interesting piece. I'm curious to hear what you 3 have to say about this. This is a piece by Justin Tavern. Justin Tavern. I like it. I'm going to start calling him that from now on. This is Justin Tadlock over on the WP Tavern website. It's a piece called Should WordPress 6.0 Remove the Beta Label from the Site Editor? Now, I have to confess that I really wasn't that aware that it was still officially called a beta bit of software, but so it is. And Justin goes on to make the point that the rollout of 5.0 from a public perspective, not from the code and the way that the code was done, but just from the messaging that went out, it was a bit of it was a thing which caused controversy. There was a lot of people who thought that was mishandled and what have you. And because of that, and because we've got so many amazing initiatives going on at the moment, you know, we've just had full site editing come around. You've got this whole different way of building websites, which requires you to have a totally different approach to theming. So you have to have a block-based theme for any of that to even become available. And then the whole UI of everything is really quite different for things like headers and footers and what have you. And because it's not yet finessed and it's not yet perfect, and we've still got a long road ahead of us with that, Justin is basically saying, look, can we keep the beta label for a bit, just so that really any unsuspecting people who start to get into full site editing and all of that, they are aware that could be breaking changes. There might be things which aren't exactly as they ought to be or will be, let's say, in 6 months' time. And he goes to paint the picture that really, even with 6.0, we're probably, maybe we need to wait till 6.1, which will be quite a long way into the future, probably the months and months and months away. Anyway, I just didn't know what your thoughts are with this. I've been using it for ages. I'm totally happy with it. Haven't really strayed into production use of full site editing, but I think for a non-technical user or somebody that doesn't obsess with WordPress like I do, it would be good to keep the beta label at the moment because of the nature of how it goes. So let's start with Birgit with that, because I imagine you've got things to say on this.
Well, I think that Justin definitely has a few points there, and the way that the expectations are handled in the WordPress community, a lot of people kind of considered that or work through site editor like it's already the finished product, and actually didn't attach the beta label to their communication. I think it helps people to manage expectations when it's there with beta and it's not working right. So I think Justin definitely has a point there. And even if 6.0 is away a few months, it's actually only 4 weeks away from feature freeze. So it really the team is really working very hard to fix the bugs that were in there, the quirkiness of some of the user interfaces that come with the first version, but it might not be there to say, okay, this is the it's never going to be a final version. So because it never, there is no, how do I say it? Web has never been a finished product.
Yeah.
Being a website, being a plugin, being a WordPress core, it's always evolving. So saying, okay, when the beta level is removed, it's now finished, that won't be the case either. WordPress has been a history of getting the minimal viable product out, and then listen to user feedback, and then bring more features in and adopt on and iterate on it. So the beta level is really for the people that don't keep up with the communication that comes out of the team, that are not reading GitHub issues, that are not reading Make Blog, just to kind of have a little indication. Oh, okay, so maybe I shouldn't base my production site on it. So and this I'm okay with kind of keeping it for 6.0 at least. Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts on that, Carmen or Taco?
My thought is, I think it's a great idea to keep it there. I always think about with full site editor, who's actually using it more. I think the people that are technical enough to use it, they understand. But at the same time, users, I don't really think they're 100% there. Are they even using full site editor? As someone that's experienced with WordPress, I have to admit, like, I played with it one time and that was about it, until I learned more about it. So that's always my concern, but I don't see anything wrong with keeping beta in the, showing that it's still in beta mode.
Thank you. And Taco.
Yeah. Well, and especially because with the default theme 2022, we are sort of setting people up to start using full site editing. And if you're unaware, and like Birgit said, if you haven't followed all the communication, which is probably most WordPress users, then having that beta flag is sort of a final warning that you're touching something that may be hard or maybe not feature complete yet. And there's no, I don't see a good reason. I don't think the product is finished enough to safely say we can remove this. And especially because the feature freeze is this close in the future. I wouldn't even say 6.1 is the good choice. Let's see in about 3 to 6 months if we're far enough ahead to make this user friendly for the average WordPress website builder.
Yeah.
Because then it should be out of beta.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just an interesting thought. Google is the company that comes to mind when I think about beta products. They basically have, everything's in beta for years. It seems to work perfectly. I used Gmail for probably a good 5 years when it was in beta. I don't quite know what was ever wrong with it, but it seems like a good idea to me, especially if you are entrusting your website to a non-technical user and it's good to know it's not quite finished and things are subject to change. So it's an interesting piece. Thank you, Justin Tavern, for writing that for us this week.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's good. This I feel is the big piece of news for this week, and I don't know if this is as big as I'm imagining it could be. Okay, so again, this is on the Tavern site. It's Justin again. I won't keep labouring that joke. But the piece is entitled WordPress.com announces marketplace vision, plans to partner with developers in the WordPress ecosystem. Okay, I read the piece which Justin was writing about, and I'll link to another piece here, which is over on WordPress.com. It's a blog piece. It was on the 8th of March. It's by Donna Cavalier. If you're looking at the screen, it's called The Future of Plugin Theme and Services Purchases on WordPress.com. And to paraphrase, WordPress.com launched this little experiment a little while ago. I can't remember how long ago, but months ago, not years and years and years ago, where they were testing out the viability of selling inside a WordPress.com marketplace plugins, premium plugins. And they began with, I think it was 6 WooCommerce plugins. Yes, it says so on this page here. The launch initially included 6 WooCommerce extensions at various different price points to do various different things. Now, I didn't really expect that experiment to get to where it has apparently now got to quite as quickly, because now it would appear that the team over on the .com side are hoping to reach out to, or have plugin developers reach out to them and say, I have a plugin that I would like to be included in this marketplace. Now, what comes to my mind here instantly is my mobile phone, and the fact that on there I've got either the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store. And although on the Android side there are ways of side loading things, basically everybody goes through to the default marketplace, and Google get a share of the proceeds. As my camera frozen, by the way, on my audio? Can you still hear me?
We can
We
still
hear you
hear
well.
you.
Yeah.
I was just getting a little warning on my screen which said that I'd kind of ground to a halt, but it seems to be okay. Yeah, so you would go through the Play Store, and I guess what WordPress.com are lining up here is a similar play. The idea being that all the good plugins, in whatever that means, will be in this marketplace. Presumably, there'll be some financial exchange for keeping that marketplace curated and up to date and what have you. Don't know what the percentage will be. We don't have any insight into that. But I just find it really interesting that they're asking for developers. They've got some stipulations. I guess you've got to have a bit of a heritage. You've also got to, well, they're going to prioritize plugin companies who commit to 5 to the future. So that's putting 5% of your revenue or profit, or I don't know what the metric there is, but 5% of your stuff into core, into helping out the core WordPress project. So I just think this is really interesting. If I was a plugin developer, there is no way I wouldn't be filling out that form, because according to Matt Mullenweg, they've got 2 million email addresses in their in the system that this would eventually fire emails to. So that's suddenly you've got reach into 2 million people. I think the number was 2 million. Yeah, 2 million people with saved. Oh, it's better than that even. 2 million people with saved payment details. So this is people who all you have to do is convince them to click buy now. You know, they don't have to discover your plugin. It can be found in this marketplace. So just a big change for me, the doing things on the .com side, which were exclusively until now the domain of the .org side, and the fact that it's all going to be in one marketplace. I just find this fascinating. So sorry, my introduction there was huge and long, but I just wanted to lay that one out. So anybody that wants to interrupt, go for it now.
Yeah, I think it's not only for plugin developers, it's also a great way for users, because what we have on the .org side is that every site owner needs to keep track of their premium plugins themselves, because each plugin has a different market payment system. Each plugin has a different download system or licensing system. And so I'm really interested in what Yoast, for instance, going to say about that. But I also feel that, of course, it's a big chance, a big business opportunity for premium plugins, but it's not a new thing. If I remember correctly, WordPress.com also had a marketplace for premium themes. And so some experience was there. And I know that there are quite a few theme developers who had some good revenue coming from WordPress.com. So it's also something, yeah, you mentioned the iPhone or the Android market share or Play stores. Another way is looking at it that, for instance, Squarespace does that as well. There are plenty of um, developers who make quite a huge business out of it, selling to Squarespace users. And with Yoast going in both spaces, I think it is an interesting um, uh, question for them to compare those two and see what happens.
Taco, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Since Yoast went in on the Shopify side, and I could be completely wrong about this, so just cut me off with this question if it's incorrect. Does Shopify have a marketplace? So can you discover the Yoast for Shopify inside a Shopify marketplace?
In fact, that's the only way to
Okay.
have your app listed on Shopify.
And
Yeah.
did that make it easier to sell the product? Was there was there an obvious benefit that your team has seen in that having this marketplace inside the platform, or was it a nightmare because you were new and needed to be discovered and trying to game your way up to the top?
I hope to be able to answer that question better in half a year
Yeah,
to
yeah.
a year from now, because we are still really new. So we're really struggling to get that exposure. Um, it's a new product, which means that we still are figuring out how to do things the Shopify way. So yeah, it does help, I guess, because that's where people search. But you still need to build that name and to build that reputation from scratch. So yeah.
Hmm. Okay, thank you. Carmen, have you got any thoughts on this?
There are a lot of things running through my mind right now.
Mm.
I'm not sure if it's a. I think it's great for the users, but I'm not sure if it's a great thing. I mean, I get for the developers, maybe smaller companies, but I'm also thinking about there was an article I was reading about Shopify where I think this was an e-commerce checkout plugin or something or app for Shopify, and basically, I think it was doing so well that Shopify decided they're going to make their own version of this app and pretty much shut them out. So I mean, hopefully that would not be the case, but I think that could be a concern for developers or other businesses wanting to come over. And I'm just thinking about how the free and the paid versions look, and then the competition, because of course, LearnDash is an LMS, so there's quite a few LMS softwares, including I believe it's Sensei. Not sure you pronounce that. So how those are going to look head to head in a space like that. So just a lot of things you would have to think through if you decided to put your plugin in there. And then we also kind of spoke on, would it be a hindrance of the 5%ers or the people that are doing the, what is it, Five for the Future? I'm sorry, that are contributing 5%. Are they able to actually be in there as well? Are they able to because they're giving priority to those people. So I'm sorry, I got a little mixed up in that last piece there.
No,
So
no.
just a lot of different things to think about. So yeah.
Yeah, so I would imagine that, like Yoast in particular, if I go to .org onto the repo, you are right there all the time. You just hammer in that number one position. Basically, since I've been using WordPress, you've been on that first screen forever. I'm just wondering if in order to get metrics to put into this marketplace going forward, it would just carry the .org stuff across with it and say, okay, Yoast typically has been doing really well. They contribute a lot. They've got millions of users. And I wonder if that's going to be a concern, is that, incumbent players are going to be able to get in and sort of dominate it from day one.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't have an answer to that. I do have a question though, because why is WordPress.com building this? And especially, I think we talked about the conversation that happened in post status a few weeks or months ago, on the podcast, when we were talking about maybe looking at options for .org to offer a commercial product. And back then, it was Matt Mullenweg who said, well, look at what happened to Joomla. We shouldn't want this for WordPress.org. And now it looks like WordPress.com is building the exact thing that was being discussed in post status and around .org. So I think that is very interesting, because does that now mean that WordPress.com, which has typically always been confusing for new WordPress users, what's the difference between .com and .org? Especially if .com now sort of offers that marketplace,
Right.
it becomes more confusing for users where they are. What is this company? Is this WordPress, or is it, and it sounds very disrespectful, but just another WordPress host, managed WordPress host?
Yeah.
Because it used to be the latter. WordPress.com used to be nothing but a managed WordPress host. Obviously, with huge contributions to the WordPress open source project, and a lot of in-depth knowledge and their own adaptations to make it even more user-friendly, but a host. And now they're sort of taking a position, or looking to take a position, that is more in between .org and being just another host. So that's very interesting, and I'm curious to see how this will develop in the future, and for example, what other big hosting companies' response is going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how, but GoDaddy, Bluehost, what's the other one? DreamHost. They already have the marketplace. Yeah, they already did that. They have their yeah. So I'm kind of. It's not just of course, it's another WordPress managed hosting, but it's also what the other managed hostings are doing. So it's not so much the catching up with WordPress.org and the discussion. It's more like catching up with other hosting companies, that I would frame it to. But it's also a testing ground. If I don't know if that ever makes it into WordPress.org, just because the commercial aspect of it changes a lot of things for WordPress.org. And if you put that in a marketplace, you need a many full-time people to actually manage that, and there is no funding for that. There is no aspect of it that has the commercial part of it. WordPress.com has it, like all the other WP Engine, and I'm just kind of need to name a few more hosting companies, so it's not just 2 or 3.
Yeah. That's okay.
But
Yeah,
it's
let's talk
but I'm
about
when I look at
SiteGround.
those, and I had sites there when I was working with clients, yeah, and there was always the favorite the plugins that won't make it to the site or to the hosting companies because they agree with how they're doing it, and also the marketplace. When you go to the plugins, they were always looking at not only that, but also at their own product, like um, Liquid Web, for instance, has a whole stellar WP suite of plugins, and of course their marketplace is going to put those higher up, and the same with uh, WP Engine with Genesis themes and all that. So I think that's a better place to compare it to than the open source part of it.
I want to stick with this story because I think this is probably the biggest one that we've
Yeah.
had in a while, actually. So a couple of things came out of what all three of you were saying there. The first one that occurs to me is what you just said, Birgit, about whether or not this ends up on the .org side of things. You know, if this is maybe it was Taco, I can't remember. Sorry, if this is an experiment and it proves to be a successful experiment, will we have something equivalent bolted in to WordPress? Is that a possibility? And if so, that would be quite interesting. So let's deal with that first. Let's just go with that one. Does anybody have any objections to that? If we were to stare into the future 2 years and this had been a runaway success, would anybody have a problem with that going into the .org side of things? In other words, you could put your payment details somewhere and you could just download plugins from this repository, the premium versions. Of course, that's what we're dealing with, not the repo versions, the premium versions. And Would you be happy with that? Is that something that's desirable even? Because on my phone, it's brilliant. It's super convenient. It just is sublime. I remember the first time I ever installed a Linux distribution. So this is going back like 15 years. I remember seeing the package manager and thinking, why doesn't Windows have this? Why do I have to go and get software from every different place? There's reasons for that, but it was a sublime. And then Apple did it, and then they did it on the desktop with their Mac app store and so on. And it's brilliant. It really is a cool thing. So let's just tackle that question. What do we think about a premium marketplace inside the .org version of WordPress? Anybody jump in?
Yeah. So, as Birgit said uh, just before, it changes the way that .org works, because it suddenly has a commercial component that needs to be paid for. Well, that could be like the Apple Store or the App Store. By taking a percentage of sales, for example, it could pay for itself in that way, but it definitely changes the way that the foundation works, that WordPress community support works, or whatever subsidiary you would need to run a commercial project like that, because that's in the end what it would be. It would be a commercial project. As a user, I would love to have this.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because finding and comparing products to each other is really, really, really complicated. Unless there is a shared system where there's just check boxes with this is the features of this product and this is the features of that product. As a plugin developer, um, I'm not entirely sure. I think it would. So one of the problems that we have at Yoast is that still a lot of people are using our free product and have no idea there is a premium version. This would probably be helpful in that discovery. So it's probably good for the upsells to premium. At the same time, it means you're losing a percentage of your sales.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know if that would be a good use case for us.
Yeah.
But maybe Carmen has an idea because
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this obviously will learn that we don't have a free product, and so that could put more eyes on us if it's inside of a repository where you can buy LearnDash there. So that's an interesting piece to it as well. So yeah.
Okay, so we've got that's a real dichotomy there from Taco. On the one hand, from an end user's point of view, it's great, it's really good. But then for the developer side of things, there's a real drawback. My understanding is that on the iOS and the Google Play Store, I think it's 30/70. I think that's the split. I could be wrong about that, but I think the developer gets 70% and the marketplace gets 30%. That is a ton of
Big
your
chunk.
revenue.
yes.
It's an absolute boatload. But imagine the ease, the lack of friction. Forget all the advertising that could go on in that marketplace and how you would rank to the top. Imagine that in your WordPress UI, you could click a single button and the purchase just happens. It's installed, done. There's no going off to Yoast trying to figure out, which page do I need to be on to buy, and then go through the payment process and fill out your name and probably have second thoughts because everybody does. There's so much cart abandonment. With this, you just click buy now and it's just done because you've lodged your payment details. So I can see there being a real upswing in sales, but a real downturn in the cost per customer for you as well. So yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing.
Can I
carry on.
add one thing to the mix? So if .org has a commercial repository, commercial marketplace, would it still be interesting to offer a free version on the repository, or would everyone go premium? instead of having that freemium model?
Yeah,
It's a good question.
that is a good question. Or really low cost version, which is basically, like $1, like you have on the, when the apps come out for the phone, there's just this ceiling, isn't there? And I don't really know what it is, but the monetary amount that you'll pay for an app on the phone is like a tenth of what I'd pay on the desktop. And often the functionality is more or less identical, but it's small, so it needs to be less money. Maybe there's a whole marketplace for like $2 kind of plugins or what have you. Yeah, that's really interesting. The other thing which came out of what you were saying was this 5 for the future inequality thing. So Matt has said that in the marketplace which they're about to get people to subscribe to, plugin developers and what have you to subscribe to, they're going to, and I can't remember the words, but essentially it boils down to prioritize. Let's see what he says. I'll quote, Matt says, we will prioritize working with developers and companies who participate in 5 for the future and contribute back to the WP community. On the face of it, that sounds like there's nothing wrong. That just sounds like a bulletproof bit of logic, unless you can't contribute, unless you literally are, you are bootstrapping it and you have not got 5% to give away. In which case, is it going to be more and more difficult for the companies who are not succeeding to succeed because they simply don't have the revenue to put into the 5 for the future? So I just wondered if there would be some kind of almost like barrier that a lot of companies just can't step over, so they never make it into that marketplace, and you get some sort of inequality happening. Don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Birgit?
Yeah, I think the context in which Matt Mollemick said that, I think was for the early access.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is an early access period there where they will prioritize. I'm not quite sure. I don't think they can do this on a normal, well, once it's released and open,
Right.
that they make it open to any plugin developer who can adhere to the guidelines. And I did not dive into the marketplace guidelines for that, but that is yeah, to so I'm not quite sure the context of this quote, but it's definitely a good incentive to figure out, because you don't have to give money to the WordPress.org project. Yeah, it's for 40 hours a week for a full-time person. That's
One day
eight
a
to
month. One
Yeah.
day a month
Yeah.
for
It's
full
one
time.
day a month. Yeah,
a good way of thinking about it.
it's not so particularly yeah in a big commitment, especially when you profit from all the 600 or so core contributors and the thousands of people who are in the community, who do documentation, who are in on the learn process, as well as on the support on WordPress.org. If you support those, I think it's not too hard of a barrier. It is for freelancers. I can see that, single person freelancers, or when you're just starting out. But there is a threshold there where you can say, okay, maybe I can write a 1 day a month a documentation piece, or to bring that in, or I do my 100 tickets on the support forum. Yeah, just to not always talk about code contributions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. I don't know if you saw right at the bottom of the piece, it kind of almost, the story changes direction a little bit right at the bottom. We're still talking about the 5 for the future bit, and the fact that in this early marketplace, and I'm sure, Birgit, I'm sure you're right about the fact that it probably wouldn't be done on this same model if this ever did go into full production mode. But the point was made that the 5 for the future, the whole thing is based on an honors system. So you can game that system. That is to say, it would be possible. And, human nature being what it is, I'm sure it wouldn't be out of the bounds of somebody who wishes to leapfrog to the top of that marketplace to go to the Five to the Future contributing page and just sort of say, yes, we've done 600 hours over the last 6 months or something. And so a little piece here, I think it was Ian Don, no, it was Andrea Middleton, said, and I quote, "The program runs on the honor system, and it wasn't clear how much of a risk that would be at launch. 2 years later, there have certainly been more spam pledges, in inverted commas, than anyone would want to see, and surprisingly few reports of fake or spam pledges." So not only are there more spam people claiming that they've done more than they probably have, but there doesn't seem to be a way of policing this. So whilst on the face of it, it seems like a good idea, like everything, it can be open to abuse. And that would be a really terrible outcome if people just started exaggerating or just downright lying about the amount of contributions they'd got in order to get higher up in this marketplace.
Right, but I think they will probably. I have not talked to anybody at Automatic about this, but I think they also would look at the people who are actually contributing from that company and then see if they get badges. Yeah, so because the team that actually they work on will, if there is a contribution, they will honor that with a badge, or also connect back to the team. So how much do they actually do? There are some things like track tickets or GitHub issues, where you can certainly measure that. And there's been a process for every release where all the contributors that not only code, but those who open issues, those who comment on things, also get props on the release. So I think there are multiple ways to actually verify that for specific plugin developers or companies that all want to go into the marketplace to actually make sure there are actually contributors.
I'm guessing this system just needs to be finessed, doesn't it? We've done quite a bit of time on that, but Taco, have you got something you want to round it off with?
Well, actually, two things. So, responding to Birgit is, yes, you can measure someone gave input on a track ticket, but I can spend 8 hours writing a patch that Birgit does in 2.
yeah.
So I don't think there's always a solid way to see how many hours are spent on a specific task. So that makes it really hard to really check that 5%. So it has to be an honor system, because otherwise it doesn't work. And the other thing, when we were talking about equality, is your suggestion was to make like a $1 payment for a premium plugin on the .org marketplace, right? Should we have that marketplace? That means you're excluding everyone who does not have the means to pay $1, either because their country is blocked from international payment systems, either because they don't have a bank account, because that dollar is feeding them for several days. So you would be, even with a super low amount of money, you would be excluding more people than the free repository currently does. And when we're talking about democratizing publishing, what WordPress's goal is, it means for everyone and not just for the people who can make a payment to a US bank account.
I think you're right. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up, Tucker.
No, it's good. I think unless Carmen, have you got anything you want to round off that one with?
No, that was a lot to think about. I've already shared that link with my team, so yeah.
Okay. In which case, I think it's high time that we said the word 200 again. Ever so, everybody waving their arms in the air. It's getting tired, but there we go. One more. Right. Okay, let's move on. So this is just such an interesting little piece. I'm actually going to link to the Gutenberg Times article. This is called Introducing the Museum of Block Art, MOBA. Did you write this piece, Birgit? Was this one that you penned?
No, no. I had Anne McCarthy, who is the spearheading that project with the few artists who started out with this. Um, she asked if she could publish it, and said, "Of course, yeah." And then she wrote it, and we pushed it through the publishing thing. But it's a really fantastic project, and in the and with the folks that worked on it, like Tammy Lister and Beatrice Yallo, and then Ellen Cole, Rich Tabor, Nick Hamsey, Brian Gardner, Javier Arts, Mel Joyce Bond, and Channing Ritter and Francisco Vera. I think I had them all
It's a
from
pretty
the
pretty
piece.
A-list team you've just mentioned there.
Yeah, they're phenomenal designers, and they use that freedom to do it actually in code. What we did when we started working with HTML and tables, yeah, they're now where we kind of tried to put different things, different layouts and different ideas into a very rigid system. Um, and now the block patterns offer that now, and that is really a great way to show off what's possible with the block editor. Yeah.
So, anybody that's listening to this, I mean, don't skip forward 5 minutes, but there is a lot to look at here. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, which will come out tomorrow, there may be something to be said for just taking the URL, which I'll give you in a minute, and going and looking at it and skipping this podcast forward a couple of minutes because there's a lot to see. But I'll just quickly read the introduction on the Gutenberg Times piece. It says, introducing the Museum of Block Art, or MOBA, I'm guessing, a new project from the WordPress community members that seeks to inspire creativity and push the limits around what can be done with WordPress. And so in and of itself, there's no sort of end goal. It's just literally, here's what we can do. Here's some amazing visual stuff that we've created basically out of blocks, core WordPress blocks, with the minimum amount of having to rely on any kind of third-party stuff and code and what have you. So you've obviously got to know your way around the block editor. Birgit's piece links to the website itself, which is called blockmuseum.com. So it's got a hyphen, so it's block-museum.com. And essentially it's a landing page, and you can enter the museum, and then you scroll through one at a time. You can look at the designs, and honestly, some of them are just fascinating. I don't know, because I didn't go into the descriptions of any of them one at a time. But how does it work, Birgit? How do I actually access to see, for example, we're staring at one made by Tammy Lister. It's numbered 15.
Well,
My
when you
understanding is a way that I can delve into how that was made, right?
So when you click on the, let me see, get back to your screen.
The
When you
number.
click, when you click on the number, then you get the code that was used, and that's pretty much the uh, uh, block pattern code, and you can highlight the whole thing. And then use it and add it into your code editor of the block editor on a page where you want to use that particular pattern. So when you click on the 015 there, there's a whole code there.
It's probably a little bit tricky for anybody that's watching this to see, but essentially it demonstrates in this particular case that there's one block in use. It's the cover block. I think it said that on the previous screen. And then we've just got what it would take to put this on your website. I'm guessing that any images are linked to some external resource pattern.
Well, yeah, the most of the time you can download the image from the
Perfect.
pattern.
Okay.
And sometimes you need to kind of figure out how that went into that and download from there. I think it's not a kind of click here, do that, and get in there. So, but that's happening on the WordPress.org pattern directory. There's everything ready to be used. The block pattern, the Museum of Block Art is more like, look what we can do kind of thing. And if you want to try, I tried some of them out on my local local instance,
Yep.
just on my computer. And sometimes you need to get the assets from the original site.
Yeah, I'd imagine that anybody
Mhm.
watching this podcast could probably figure that out. But I just clicked and I found a URL for the image, and then obviously I could download
Yeah,
that. So let's just scroll through a few. They're just fascinating. They're each completely different and unique. The ones that I saw, there was a lot of contributions from Tammy Lister.
yeah,
This is number 19. I won't try and describe it, but it's just really, really nice to look at. I could totally imagine using that. A little bit more complicated. There's a little bit more going on. It
yeah.
says that there was a group block plus a column block, and I'm trying to get my head around how that was
And
made.
then duotone and
Yep,
gradients and
yep,
gradients.
yeah. There it all is. Yeah, it's lovely. And then we've
Yeah.
got another one by Tammy. Again, I'm not going to describe, but again, group blocks and column blocks. It just gives you an idea how to deploy this stuff.
If
You
you go,
go on.
if you go to the in the menu up there and to the index, then you can kind of
Ah,
scroll through the other ones. And I like the walking in Valparaiso. That's the second from the left.
let's put
Um,
that one up.
yeah, because it uses the columns, and the little video shows you kind of how it moves when you move the columns from left to right. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Oh,
So you get a
yay!
different, that kind of I found really interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And Taco, you've given me a link to something. Let me just sort of open that up. I
Oh,
don't know what
yeah,
it is, but
the
it's the
block composition. Yeah,
is this a one that you particularly like the look of? Was it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, may I ask you what kind of browser you're using,
I'm using
Nathan?
Brave.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, it has this new feature. It's called Speed Reader,
Yeah,
and I can disable it here. So, okay,
yeah,
thank
because you're
you. Okay,
missing
well
the
spotted.
the
I just
visual of
hadn't.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. I hadn't really realised what was going on there. That's yeah. So, anybody watching over the last couple of minutes, the code that we were looking at actually was rendered incorrectly because I've got this Brave browser which tries to decide helpfully that it would be easier to read it in this plain text format. And so here we are. We've got a much more
yeah,
easy to read UI. The text size is much nicer and so on. So, okay. Oh, this one's complicated, as you would imagine. It's kind of like a Mondrian style
Yeah.
yeah.
art,
I no
and there's a
wonder
lot
Taco
going
likes
on
it.
there. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Look at that
It's
one.
yeah.
And then what was the one that you mentioned, Taco? Was that it? Did I just get that one?
That was this one.
That
I
was the one.
mentioned,
Yeah,
yeah,
Look at this.
yeah,
We've got
yeah.
yeah.
Mario. That's probably quite I would imagine, as a lot of code, but a fairly basic one to
Yeah.
actually put together. So this is just a really curious idea. The intention, I think, is that you wander over here and just get inspired, and then dive in, see how it's been done, unpack that in your brain a little bit, and then if you wish, copy and paste the code which comes out when you click on the number. You can actually click. No, you can't click the image. You've got to click the number by the looks of it. And there's the code. You can copy that and stick it straight onto your website, bringing across any assets probably for the ride in case they go off the internet. Brilliant little project. Have you got anything with that, Carmen? Sorry, you didn't get a chance to speak in that bit.
Yeah, I was thinking about it would be great if maybe like a pop up at like a word camp or something, and maybe have these on some iPads or some screens, and people kind of get to walk around and get like a real life experience. So I think that would be pretty cool. That's all I had to add to it.
I
Yeah.
I I like learning basically by ripping people off. So, the idea that I can just go in here and sort of somebody's freely given this away, the notion there, I wouldn't want to do Mario, but I could imagine doing something else, some sort of pattern in this way or color
Mhm.
scheme or just, I don't know, just some sort of chessboard or something. It's
Yeah.
kind of a nice idea. So, one more time, blockmuseum.com, block-museum.com looks like a really cool project.
And I think
We go on.
the way to get your own creations on there is by tweeting them out, right? At this
Well,
point.
tweeting them out and connecting with Anne. Right now, it's a highly curated experience. There's no kind of submission or something like that. That will come later, not here, but for the block pattern directory. I think the Meta team is really working on getting that finished to submit patterns to the directory via self-service, so to speak. Remember that came out also as a curated experience, also to figure out how translation is going to work. And so I think with the block pattern block-museum.com and the block pattern directory. I think block patterns get a very prominent role in the next release, 6.0, in terms of what other people can do with it. Yeah, there's already in the Gutenberg plugin, you can actually now point to patterns in the directory, so they don't have to come with the theme, or if many themes of your shop use the same pattern, you can point to it through the block directory, and that combination is going to be a really interesting dynamics later on. Yeah, I'm really looking forward how that's going to play out.
Now we know that we've managed to get to episode number 200.
Hey!
Got to episode number 200, and just apropos, it seems like the perfect bit of timing. Paul Lacey's rocked up. And Paul, if for those of you that don't know, he did like 100 of these shows with me, and then he just sort of threw me under a bus and decided to go and do other things instead.
Paul, we miss you.
Opportunity for all of us to be your co-hosts.
That's right, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
He did it for all of those lovely reasons. No, we're very, very good friends on and off.
He's one of the giants.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you, Paul, for coming in and saying hello. That's really kind of you. I love that. Okay, right. Next bit comes politics. We don't do politics very often, but now we live in a world where everything is tainted by politics. I'm talking about Ukraine, obviously. There's an article that appeared more or less exactly the time that this show was on last week. It's by Rob Howard, and it's called "Should the WordPress Community Quit Russia?" Now, this is such an interesting debate. Honestly, anything that you say now is entirely up to you, and nobody's going to hold you to anything. But the article basically goes, the internet, there's massive properties out there. You've got Disney and Netflix, and you can pay online, Visa, MasterCard, all of these kind of things. And they've, in large measure, over the last week or so, they're really thinking about their posture, and in some cases completely collapsing their exposure to Russia, shutting down shops, removing everything. And so the debate goes something like this: should WordPress have a posture on this? Because when you think about it, 43 point whatever, 6 or something % of the internet, I know that's a slightly misleading figure, but let's use it. 43% of the internet is using WordPress. Combined, that's a lot of things. And does WordPress, the community, should we have some sort of position on this? So obviously, you may be on the side of yes, it would be good if WordPress and all WordPress sites were to block access, let's say, to Russia. Everybody stick a firewall up and block IP addresses that work, that come out of Russia. Of course, the opposite side is WordPress is probably one of the best tools for people who want to have their own content on the internet, unmanaged by, let's say, a political system above them. It's one of the best ways that you can put your own content out there, unfettered. It's yours. You can do with it what you like. So that's the counter argument. For my part, I think it's obviously a personal decision. If you've got a huge property built on WordPress, and let's say, for example, your government requires you to do it, then I guess that's a requirement you've got to obey. But it feels to me like WordPress is a tool which is available to everybody, and it should still be available to everybody, because I can see so many fabulous uses for people who need to be able to use WordPress more than ever right now. So politics, apologies, anybody, just chuck your 2 cents in.
Yeah, I feel that it goes against open source, what we are, because if you look at other companies, I don't know if they have this in the terms and conditions, but if you invade another country, then your country can't use our software anymore. So I feel like it does kind of gets open source, and at the same time, you have people, innocent, just citizens of Russia that have nothing to do with this at all. I seen people were joking about it, but there was a guy, he was standing outside of the McDonald's, in Russia, and he was upset. He can't access McDonald's anymore. So I think you're just kind of just punishing people by doing that. But I do understand the seriousness of things that's going on, but you don't want to punish the people that it's helping as well.
Yeah, thank you for those comments, Carmen. Birgit or Taco,
Yeah.
anything?
Well, thank you. But yeah, I'm more with so the big problem is also misinformation, disinformation, and supporting independent publishing in either way is certainly something that WordPress does, but it also um, we also have, from a personal level, we have I know people that are in the Ukraine that are contributors, and I know contributors from Russia, and I approach this not from a political point of view. I think either one of them would be really hurt if WordPress would not support them anymore in terms of their contribution to the community, and kind of let yeah something that's abstract. It's very abstract for me right now because I'm in the safety of the United States. It's very real for Ukrainian people, but I don't think that the normal Russian person is actually attacking. Yeah, so having that in the we are a world community, and we all exist despite certain governments.
It's
Um,
interesting as well because it
yeah.
feels like the big, the platforms that we all know, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all of those. My understanding is that they endeavored to carry on, but they were actually blocked. So they saw their mission as to be there still, to provide the ability to upload videos and content and to interact, communicate, WhatsApp, and all of that kind of stuff. But it was actually there was a top-down blockage which prevented them. It wasn't that they withdrew. So yeah, Taco, sorry, interrupted.
Yeah. No, that is indeed the case. And I agree with the first point Carmen made, and that is, what does open source mean? What does our license say? It says our software has all the freedoms and can be used for anything. And that does mean that WordPress is used to publish websites that incite hate. It means that WordPress is used by governments that completely suppress their people. It means that WordPress is used by porn websites. And maybe none of those is what we personally like, what we would prefer WordPress to be used for. But the freedom that anyone can use WordPress is bigger than feeling uncomfortable about what is published using the software.
Yeah.
Uh, that said, and this is, I mean, I have a few colleagues from Ukraine. Fortunately, we managed to get them to safety. They're now with us in Wijchen, in the Netherlands. But the really hard story, and for those of you who know Andre, also goes by the name Rarst, and follow him on Twitter, he makes a very good case in saying why these blocks are from commercial companies are a good thing, and why they are actually helping getting awareness for the war that's going on. And
Yeah.
being very much on one side of this conversation, even though I also have a colleague in Russia, I my heart is more with Ukraine at this moment, and I don't think that we can safely say that the average person is not a party in this, and thus we should keep them safe, or we should prevent them from not having access to all the companies that pulled out. Because in the end, probably the only way that we can resolve this matter without getting further into a world war is by internal pressure from Russia, from Russians. And so the only way we can do that is when they have access to independent media. And a lot of those happen to use WordPress.
Thank you. Yeah, difficult.
So, yeah, I just you pointed out, Joost, that making a stand in terms of yeah, getting the word out of what's happening in the Ukraine. I just wanted to link to or mention the plugin Stand with Ukraine that was built by Jonathan Bozinger, and where you can have a banner on top with a link to support nonprofits in the Ukraine that help with refugees, that help with food donations, all that. So if that's something you want to be be an activist without being able to do anything else, and I think every bit helps to put display your sympathies and where your heart is.
Yeah. Thank you. That's wordpress.org/plugins/stand-with-Ukraine. It's a plugin by, as Birgit said, Jonathan Bossinger. So yeah, that's a nice thing to mention. And I noticed that Taco, you put this into the show, into our little private chat. Do you want to just briefly mention this is Petya Rekovska?
Yeah,
It's called The Fight for Independent Media. What's this?
I think this is still one of the most impressive presentations I've ever seen at a WordCamp. Because this is where Petya explained how important WordPress was to her country in getting independent media. And it's, if you've not seen, I think it was WordCamp London, but if you scroll down a bit, it says so on the page which WordCamp it was.
WordCamp Barcelona 2015.
Oh, Barcelona 2015.
Yep.
Right. So, but this is definitely a presentation that is, everyone should have seen this somewhere in their WordPress career, because it shows the power and the importance of WordPress, and why we should make sure that WordPress is available to anyone.
This is Petya Rekovska. It's on the WordPress TV, The Fight for Independent Media. I've got the link on the screen, and I will make sure to actually add both of those, the Stand with Ukraine and this WordPress TV thing, to our show notes today when it goes live tomorrow. And there's just a comment here from the networking introvert. Sorry.
Ken.
Is it?
Ken.
Thank you. Thank you for that. He says, good points. I feel putting restrictions on who and how people use WordPress is similar to restricting who can use prescription medicine based on a few people who misused it in the past. That's an interesting comment. Thank you so much. Okay, right. Couple of things quickly. We're getting to the more frivolous end of the show, which is always nice. Let's go to this. Every year, Talk magazine have this thing called Plugin Madness. You've got 6 days left to enter the 2022 contest. And look at that, right at the top, Yoast. Am I right in this? So the plugins that are matched. So the idea is that you pick one plugin over another. So for example, at the top, you've got WPM UDEV Smosh versus Yoast. Beneath that, you've got Custom Post Type UI versus Cadence Blocks. And then you've got Media Cleaner versus Speed Booster Pack. And so it goes. And you pick one. So there's no attempt here. They're not trying to compare like that Yoast is in any way similar. It's just pick one that you like and just enjoy it. It's just a bit of fun.
Just popular vote.
Okay,
if you click on View Full Bracket,
where's that?
You can, slide near the top of just above the green bar.
Oh.
So this is the entire competition, and that week was just the first round. It started with 64 plugins. So obviously, because they go head to head every week, only 32 are left in this round. Then there's 16 in the next, 8 in the next, etc., until there's 2 left for a grand finale.
Got it.
So
So
yeah, it's a
in the
bracket style
first
competition.
round, there was some sort of parity. The plugins were similar because it looks like you were up against SEO Press, and for example, you got Visual Composer against Beaver Builder. It looks like, and you've got Formidable versus Ninja. But as soon as that round has gone, that whole thing just breaks down and it just becomes like a free for all. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So and you can vote every 24 hours. And each week on Monday, a new round starts. So we just went into round number 2. So
Not
that's why there's 6 days left in this round to vote.
I know that I see this all over the place, right? This competition has a huge amount of traction. Obviously, people enjoy doing it. It's dead simple to cast your vote.
Yes.
But the fact is, I see plugin authors, and they are really keen to win this. Does it have an impact if you win this? Does it actually, does it mean something? Does it lead to greater, greater sales and things, or are you just promoting it for a bit of fun?
It gives bragging rights.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's about it. So probably for some of the smaller plugins in the first couple of rounds, it means exposure.
Yep.
But in the end, the winner, it's just about bragging rights.
Okay, got it. So there's a few rounds left, but you can vote for all these fabulous companies that are still left in there. Carmen, I don't know if LearnDash is in there. I didn't inspect that, but if it was,
I think we may have lost that first round.
oh no!
So
Anyway,
unfortunately,
you can go to talkmag.io/plugin madness. And one last proper piece of news just before we go on to the silly facts around the number 200. See what I did there? What are you doing here, Taco? What's going on? I've got a website, and I'm not even going to try and say these words
Yeah,
because
sorry. So the piece I wrote is in Dutch,
Yep.
but with Google Translate, you should be able to translate. So obviously, we have a lot of refugees around the world, people having to flee their homes for all sorts of reason. None of them is good. And there is a Dutch foundation, the Refugee Foundation, that organizes a 40-kilometer walk to raise money for helping refugees around the world. And a friend of mine convinced me to participate. So I'll be walking 40 kilometers, and obviously the idea is that you can sponsor me so that we together raise as much money as possible for helping refugees everywhere, including Ukraine.
That's so cool. So there's a much shorter URL than the one that I just put up. So it's Taco Verdo, which is Taco's site. Taco Verdo, VERDO.com/NVDV, which I'm guessing is the acronym for the event or something.
Yeah.
NVDV. And you can raise money. It looks like it at the minute, 361 euros has been pledged. So
Yep.
Let's see if we can get that a little bit higher. Okay. Oh, that's cool. Well done, Taco. When's it happening?
On the 19th of June. So it starts
way
at
away.
midnight. Yeah, starting at midnight, and it will be an entire night.
Oh, at least it'll be warm by then. That'll be something. Right. Okay. Now, because it is. Oh, no, I've got to queue up the graphic now. Because it is episode number 200.
200.
I love the fact that you're all participating and doing that's brilliant. Because it is episode that number, I just thought it'd be a bit of fun to play with that number a little bit. And so I found a collection of facts. You may find these interesting, you may find them dreadfully dull, but here are facts, lots and lots of facts about that number. I'm not going to press the button every time because we'll be here all day, but did you know, for example, I'll do like 10 or so of them, and maybe, you could pick one out that you like and do it yourself. Let's go for, according to Belfast Zoo, there are only, well, you have a guess. How many giant anteaters living in zoos around the world? What would you guess that number to be, roughly speaking? Have a think for a minute.
Before today, I would have made a different guess, but right now I would say 200.
Well, it's funny you should say that. It is. It is, in fact, the number 200. According to Belfast Zoo, there are only 200 giant anteaters living in zoos around the world. Okay, this is good. Anybody want to guess what the Roman numerals CC stand for? If you wrote the numerals C and then C, what do you reckon? You reckon that would be roughly? Any thoughts on? It's the number 200. So there you go. If you ever did Latin class, we had to do Latin at school. I absolutely hated it. This is an interesting one. Did you know that 200 lustrums, say that word again, 200 lustrums is a millennia? So it's 1,000 years. So how much is a lustrum then?
5 whole years.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that one of us can do maths. Did you know that in Unix time, 200, the number 200 in Unix time is equal to Thursday, January the 1st, 1970, at exactly 12:03 and 20 seconds GMT? Of course you knew that. That was, of course.
Who doesn't?
How? Yeah.
Who doesn't, right?
In sign language, I guess this makes sense, but I didn't know it. This and this twice is the number 200. So you got the 2, like the V, I guess, and then you got a 0, which is, for those listening, it's like thumb and index finger joined together. Taco throw in quite a nice one, which is, what we all like on the internet. What does the 200 code mean, Taco?
That is okay.
Yeah. If your site is 200, everything's fine.
Yes.
But it's not to be confused. I just love this. I honestly, you're telling me it's true. There's a bit of me which doesn't believe you. 200 on the internet, your HTTP status code. So, you've got like the 404 and all that kind of stuff. 200 is everything's fine. It's okay. But apparently there's a 418. Now, okay, all right. I trust Taco. What the heck is 418?
Yeah, it means I'm a teapot.
Why does it mean I'm a teapot? Have you got any insight into that?
Yes,
I've verified that.
There's a good story to that. And I think it was related to April Fools, where every year they do something. And, well, one of the years, 418 was added as I'm a teapot. And let me see, that was published in 2014, April 1st, 2014. So it has been a valid HTTP status code for...
What a load of nonsense. I think that's brilliant. In the year 200 AD, Clement of Alexandria denounced the use of musical instruments to accompany human voices in Christian churches. What a killjoy. Clement of Alexandria. Shame on you. Did you know that 200 MeV units, the unit is MeV. This is great. I love this. 200 MeV is the temperature of quark gluon plasma phase transition. Of course you knew that. Of course you knew that's what it was. Let's just do one more. Have we got a fun one?
You were going to do the Morse.
Oh, shall I try to do the Morse code? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
This is Morse code for 200. Hang on. I can't do Morse because I can't do a long one. But anyway, it's short, long, break. That's 2. And then 0 is 5 long. So it's long. Was that 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. And then another one. So it's short, long, break. Long, break. Long. And there you go. That's a good one. And the square root of 200 is 14.142136. That sounds almost like pi almost, but it's not quite. Without the 14 at the beginning. 3 point. Okay, that's it. That's all the crazy facts that I've got for the number 200. I would thank you so much for being good sports about my ridiculous 200 obsession this week. I would remind you, yeah, thanks, Birgit. You're carrying on there. Just a quick one before we go. I'll put this caption back up. This is our competition. If you want to win, well, Yoast have given us a site license 1 year for 3 sites. That's their premium subscription. You can win that, or you can also win from Yoast an SEO add-on of your choice for 1 year for 1 site. Stella is giving $200 of gift certificates for Snack Magic, which we found fun earlier. And they're also giving some caps away. You cannot win a cap. Don't even try to win the cap. It's cruel. But there are also from Cadence WP 2 t-shirts, 2 mugs, 2 ball caps. And if you want to win that, go to wpbuilds.com/200. And you might be able to win. Thank you. Yeah. It's the end of the show. And at the end of the show, every single week, I do ask the guests to wave in the normal way. So would you mind all of us having a bit of a wave? What's that? Oh, should I put the 200 up at the same time? Yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? Let's do that. Okay, where's it gone? There it is. Right, okay. Everybody wave. Everybody wave. Thank you so much. That's great. If you enjoyed it, please share it with your friends, colleagues, cats, whatever you like. And we'll be back another week, probably this time next week, in all honesty, with some different guests. But thank you to Birgit Pauli-Hack. Thank you to Taco Verdenschott, and thank you to Carmen Kendrick for joining us today. Really appreciate it. If you guys want to stick around for a few seconds afterwards, might be nice to have a chat. But the rest of you, have a nice day. Thanks for making some comments. Cheers.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.